We're going to get right into the discussion with my expert speakers here. We have, got to see the order here. We've got Wendy Tan White here, CEO of Intrinsic, directly to my right. Then we have Francesco Nori, director of Google DeepMind. Then we have, Mark Tierman, chief strategy officer of Boston Dynamics. Lorenzo Macia, professor of intelligent biorobotic systems and director of the Munich Institute of Robotics and Machine Intelligence. And then we have Corina Apicit, who's the head of artificial intelligence at Continental Automotive Technologies. My name is Ken Fuhi. I'm editor-in-chief of VDI Nachrichten, German analog and digital newspaper. And we've also got Spot here, who is not quite up to speed on AI robotics and able to take part in the discussion today. So I think I'll ask Spot to leave the stage now. If he'd just be careful that he doesn't step on my feet while he's leaving. How do the application industries get from where they are today to robust and generalizable AI systems? So how do they put this into place?
It's very different going from your research models to true putting it into application to actually then putting it into production and then operating it in reality. And I think that's what this audience we're talking to here is what you're actually worrying about. How do you take that and apply it in reality? And I think what we've definitely tried to do as Intrinsic, but also with the whole ecosystem, and that means a lot of the folk here, whether it's academia, whether it's DeepMind and the model breakthroughs, whether it's industry, how do we help you take each of these building block components, so AI skills, different hardware assets, actually integrate them and apply them in a workflow process that is actually valuable to you as an end customer, and actually deploy it. And so a lot of what we've actually had to do is get that pipeline right, and to make sure we future-proof it so that as the new models come, whether they are specialized models, which are very practical for you today, like, I don't know, grasping, let's say, or perception, or we actually eventually get to true end-to-end learning and more generalized intelligence, we want to be able to make sure you can wrap that and add that to the workflow you need to do to put it into production. And I think that's the big step change that's happened in. I think that's the step change of this whole industry, is actually moving, really integrating that hardware and software pipeline properly.
Can I follow up?
Yep.
I think I agree, absolutely. We need to do it collectively, together. I think that's the key word that I want to highlight. As a matter of fact, I think I'm a research scientist. We do a lot of basic science, but we had to ask Wendy and Boston Dynamics as well to start testing our technology. And I think this is like a good image of the fact that any technology requires collective work together to make it suitable for applications, to make it suitable for different companies, to understand what is useful for, also to make it such that it's not harming the society. That's another important bit. I think all of this collaboration needs to happen with academia, as Wendy was saying. There's really a need to do it collectively rather than having a single owner of the technology and deploying it. I think that's a must-have, and the fact that nowadays we have so much, venture capitalists trying to fund the different projects is also a good sign that we can do it even more collectively. The whole society wants this to happen, and this is, I think, a great opportunity for us to do it with more people involved and not doing it siloed, but just to share the journey together and get it done all together.
Yeah, talking about sharing the journey together, I think what's so important with what both of you said is that from the commercial side, companies need to start today, because you cannot wait for 99.9% reliability on mobile robots or our AI models and say, oh, I'm just going to wait and let my competition do the work first. No, you need to start today. And I'm always surprised how much hesitation we're getting in Germany for new technology adoption. That's not the case in Asia, and it's not the case in the United States.
Well, for me, and now I would say, let's say a word, and everyone will say, oh my gosh, I mean, there should be a certain certification agency for all this model that has been developed. Because we have, different layer of security, and this layer of security cannot be only taken by the foundation model, but should be an intrinsic layer of security at the foundation model with the certification. There should be another one that relies on classic control. There should be another one that relies on embedding a certain intelligence into the mechanical structure. So if you have this 3 layer of security coordinated and certified, then probably this technology is going to be accepted. I understand. I mean, it's a lot of bureaucracy behind, but we are always talking about, in this case, certain application, especially for what we do, collaborative robotics. And when you put the human in the loop, it should be super safe in if there are 3 different levels of security. That's the idea.
Where's this certification body going to come from? Who's going to do that?
Well, every country has a certification. We have the TÜV, actually, TÜV, but it should be something, for example, centralized. Eventually, America has American Association of Robotics. Europe can have European Association of Robotics. They should converge. This is quite a big question. I don't know how to reply, to be honest, also because I'm not aware of all the certification entities that are around the world, especially for what concerns industrial robotics.
Can I perhaps go back to the journey I was describing?
Yeah.
I picture this journey of certification as well as something very collaborative. These days, the technology is very new and green, and I think a top-down kind of approach will never work. It has to be done on the field with people really working with the application of the technology. Otherwise, we risk of creating too many boundaries before they are actually understood enough. And I'm very aware this is very powerful technology and it's very disruptive, but at the same time, I need to think balance with the idea that needs to come at the right time, with the right limits and the guardrails that are needed only when the technology is really understood a bit better.
But are we worried that Germany remains competitive, its competitive advantage in the world? Are the Chinese creating certification agencies, or are they just doing?
They're just doing.
I think that's the risk, is that we're in a globally competitive world. You won't get to control it within just Europe or within America. I don't know. What I'd love to know from the group is maybe when you look at something like self-driving, for example, which is probably our best example of actually putting really a robotics verticalized application with intelligence into the world. How do we go around that? And the greatest fear I know from talking to customers here is that with the traditional certification, everybody understands literally step by step, detail by detail, inside the process, whether it's safe or not. The problem with end-to-end learning, for example, is that it's a black box. You can't see inside, so there's a fear. But it might be mentally we need to shift that to look at, okay, how do we actually validate the boundaries of the outcome versus worry about the detail of inside exactly what's going on? Now, why would I say that? We all work as human beings today in many dangerous situations, and how do we certify that? Yeah, we look at the outcome and the process we create, and can you get to a 5 nines level of accuracy with that? And so, is there a different way to look at certification? I'd ask.
It's based on experience, if you're concerned about human, but then reconnect to what data are we using for training. So it's impossible to foresee any possible situation, but I suppose that certification should start also from the data that are fed during the training, and see if you can embrace a certain percentage of situation that are the optimal one, the unoptimal one, and the dangerous one. I believe, if I understood that if you see, this, let's say AI as a black box and you cannot really look inside, but at least we can start with the boundary condition, with what we feed to the model.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
How will AI robots overall influence the world of work in factories on a more global level now?
Yeah.
Corina.
So manufacturing has certain advantages. First, the processes, the rules are somehow known, so they are suitable to be automized. Second, the people working in plants, they are educated. They will maybe rather respect certain rules in the interaction with robots than the normal humans would be. And the third advantage is the work is very hard. So we shall release humans of doing this kind of hard work. And despite of having these advantages in manufacturing, the automation degree in automotive industry is at most 40%. So we are not at a status or a status quo where everything what can be automated has been already automated. I can give you an example from Continental where we do not assembly vehicles with robots, but rather do visual inspection through artificial intelligence. And of course, we release the humans of a routine work, which is very, how should I say, not so human, I would say, to stay for hours along the production line and see if certain errors occurred or not. How the automation will change the work, hopefully for the better, releasing humans for the direct, immediate work, but somehow enforcing us to take the role of teaching robots, further developing robots, and developing new AI solutions to do the work which previously was done by us.
Lorenzo?
So I can continue smoothly on the line that you just opened. So for me, one of the biggest revolution can be in this way, large language model. Because right now, if you have to hire someone that is able really to, let's say, install automation line, optimize it, it needs someone with skills that are rare to find. The advent of large language model allows to have people, for example, that are able to prototype faster, or having at least the first layer of prototypization, and then eventually there should be another layer of optimization. But it makes everything by far much faster. So I suppose that they will be born probably in the near future, very near future, people that are really able to set up a production line in a much faster way. And this might be, thanks to the large language model, a capacity open to many different people rather than before, in which the very skilled programmer were only able to do that.
Yeah, but I think that brings up the fundamental question is, like, how transparent and explainable must these AI decisions in robots be in order for the humans to accept them? If there's only 5 people can program, then the 500 in the factory are not really going to accept that, are they?
I'll take this one. I wanted to reply, how do I see the future of automation in a slightly different way? With a personal experience. I'll start with my experience with Workstation, installing a OS, operative system. I remember when I was a PhD and I was like, okay, I'll start with Linux. And it was like, of course, like the very geek choice, and then it was like a pain to install. And all the drivers, you need to recompile the kernel, and then it was like really an experience, and I had joy in it. Like I was really enjoying it. It feels like I'm achieving something, but it took a long, long while, and it was very, very difficult, and it was a pain to maintain, right? And I also, all of a sudden, I said, okay, I give it a try to the Mac experience, you know, and I was like, oh my God, this is like heaven now. Everything works. Everything really, really works out of the box. I don't know what's happening under the hood, but really, really, it feels better. I feel like I do what I need to do. It works much better. And it's the same with cell phones now, right? You buy a cell phone, any brand, Android included. It's like the experience of using it is very smooth. Now, automation, I think, should be the same. Like, automation should be as easy. And maybe I don't know what's under the hood. Like, I played with humanoid robotics for like 10 years in my life. I was at the Italian Institute of Technology before Google DeMind. I was developing a humanoid. It was a pain. It was a joyful pain, yes, but it was really a pain to automate, to write a single behavior, to do a demo for Automatica. I've been here. Angela Merkel visited our booth once back then, and it was a pain to prepare it. I just want this pain not to be anymore there. Like natural language points in that direction, trustworthy, maybe another, yes, sure, I need to trust what's happening, but it needs to be a pleasant experience rather than a pain, which is like kind of a second type of fun.
It's me? Yeah, super. So how transparent shall AI and robots be? It depends. It depends. It depends on the application. We probably all use ChatGPT-like solutions. How many of us understand how these systems were trained, how they function, and does it really matter to us just to translate something or whatever? I don't think so. But when it comes to self-driving, to automated driving, of course we have to develop explainable AI methods in order to make this technology certifiable, approved, homologated, and for hopefully unexpected case of accidents to understand why the accident happened. So clearly it depends. It depends also on the wishes and the preferences of the user. Yeah.
I think, but maybe just touching on the user point, because I think this is what you're also saying, Francesco. The world tends to adopt things because it adds value and because it's easy to use. Whatever the certification is, actually, ultimately, the certification can actually it's there for insurance certification and to protect. And so you'll find some industries and some countries and some applications will take a different view, which is as long as people want it and use it, and it's within a certain boundary of risk, we can take that risk. So I think there's some balancing that has to happen here around, it's to your point, which industries really need that certification because the risk is too high versus ones where we need to keep innovating. Because otherwise, we will get out-competed is the other problem. Yeah? And users will go where they want to use things.
I think we're, as Boston Dynamics, we're very close to you being able to interact with with natural language. And the same will be true for humanoids. Now, there's a little bit of a humanoid craze at the moment on the internet especially. So are they coming tomorrow? Probably not. But are there going to be humanoids deployed in the next 10 years? For sure. So I think it's on that journey that folks like DeepMind are working on making sure that we can teach these robots by showing them, right? Hey, robot, let me teach you how to do this task, and then the robot can repeat it. And I think that will become a very natural process, and that's around the corner.
So, I mean, let me reconnect on what basically everyone is saying. In my opinion, to have something that is really reliable, and then at the end, it's us programming the system, feeding the data, we have to start from the education of the person. So what is the main question right now with AI? How does the educational system will change? A good programmer or a good designer is someone that has studied C++, I don't want to say Fortran, but really, the low-level code, and then eventually use AI to speed up 100 times. But you cannot rely on people that don't know the basics and use AI just to save time.
What's the difference geographically in the adoption rates of what we're talking about here? Here you've got a lot of fear in Germany that we're getting left behind, that China is moving ahead. We had a little bit of that in the side comments here, that we're inventing regulation, they're inventing industries. What's your take on that as to where we are in Germany and Europe compared to the rest of the world, and what should happen?
At the educational point of view, I can reply. We know that China is going fast in that direction, including since very early stage in the school, the use of AI instruments. And to be honest, we said before, they dare, they win. So there's a military phrase, who dares wins. I mean, these are the British. But to be honest, they are daring, and right now, honestly, they're winning. So how the learning paradigm will be changed or shifted using artificial intelligence at the level of early school academics, we wonder if it is a risk. They assume it is a risk, but they also want to be the first in case it's not a risk, but it's a step forward. It's, they're taking the risk. So, and I agree with them, Mark? If you want to see that.
So I can't comment on the AI portion, but on the robotics portion, there's two interesting things happening. On the one hand, the fictional narrative about robots like ours is very dark in Europe and very dark in the United States. I can tell you every meeting I've ever had over the last 5 years at Boston Dynamics, somebody brings up Terminator or Black Mirror. So I think so there's a general fear for autonomous mobile robots, I think, in those countries. That's not true in Asia. And then secondarily, within my two robots, the truck unloading robot that we sell very well in Germany. Maybe because it's confined to a container and it does its job and it's very confined. Versus the spot robot that you saw earlier, we have almost no traction in Germany because people are deciding to wait. They're like, that's too early for me, I don't want to do it, the regulation is not there, the certifications are not there because they're outdated. And so I fear for Germany in that if we take a wait-and-see approach as a country, that will not end well, I think.
So from me, you'll get a very biased answer, right? Because I'm a born native Romanian working for a German company or a company which is multinational but headquartered in Germany. And this is the perspective from which I will give an answer to the question. Yes, there are differences. In China, very fast in adoption in mass adoption. Once you arrive at the airport in Shanghai, AI is everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. You can not so much talking about AI, but a lot of solutions, apps, and so on. In US, very innovative business models, entrepreneurial mindset, the willingness to bring solutions fast on the market, to have this validation fast from the market. But I'm a strong believer in the European way and the power of purpose, the willingness to take everybody on this journey of progress and have a kind of equality in the society. And I am also convinced that everybody can play a role in shaping the future, but you have to do it. Yeah, you have to start with that.
That's right.
And don't take so much time to think about yes or not. The only loss which you can have with AI is to not start today. Yeah.
To sum up the global situation, we're in a non-linear step change right now of technology and application. Yeah, it's not like it used to be. You can't hang around and be a laggard waiting for it to happen. Yeah, because it's runaway competition right now, globally, and it's global. So China is leading right now, then the US, then Europe is lagging. And I say this as a European, or I was a European until we sadly Brexited, but we really actually do, you need to take it very seriously right now. Yeah, this is going to shift very, very quickly. So if you have a doubt, take a chance and a risk. Yeah, there's a lot of people here that want to help you do that, but do it, because it's going to be too late actually, otherwise, I would say. Yeah. Okay. So just a...
Okay, that's a perfect wrap up to what we've talked about. So the biggest risk is not to take the risk and not
Correct.
to take it now, to wait around and see what happens, and that's none of us can afford to do that. Thank you to all of you for a fascinating discussion. We could talk for another hour, and I'd still only get through half my questions, but we'll come back in at the next Automatica and unload the rest of the questions. Thank you very much.